Welcome geniuses, I'm Genie, your best buddy for A-levels. In this channel, we'll bring you to explore the secret formula behind success.
Okay, after we understand the sign part, the fourth stage, what we need to do is we need to understand what is the magnitude of PED. Okay, basically the magnitude shows the value which is shown by the value of the PED, which is shown by the PED value. Okay, now, guys, for example, if I give you the first PED value equals to 5, and I give you the second PED value, okay, PED equals to 0.2, okay. Now, this value will show you the magnitude of consumers' respond, okay, how sensitive consumers are, or consumers are not very sensitive, okay. And as you can see, while I write the magnitude here, I can just ignore the negative sign because it's understood, like what I say just now. Okay, now, when you want to look at the magnitude, then I remind you, you go back to the formula first, yeah. The formula of PED is percentage change in QD over percentage change in price, which means this 5, it is the outcome of percentage change in QD divided by percentage change in price. So in order to get 5, it is like 5 over 1. Therefore, a PED value of 5 indicates where, okay, 1% change in price will lead to 5% change in QD. Do you get me? So I repeat, yeah, because the 5 value is the outcome from this formula. So if you are to get an answer of 5, then it must be down to 5 divided by 1. And 5 is on top, which is percentage change in quantity. And 1 is at the bottom, which refer to percentage change in price. So in that case, if I want to interpret this figure, it is 1% change in price will lead to 5% change in QD. Okay. And again, if I put a value on it, yeah, so if 1% rise in price, definitely will lead to 5% fall in QD because they have inverse relationship. Okay, so now moving on. Then we need to assess, we need to ask ourselves, if your price changed by 1%, a quantity demanded changed by 5%, then consumers are responsive or not responsive to the changes in price. So I can draw a conclusion here. Consumers are responsive to changes in price. This is the conclusion that I can draw here. All right, so we settle this for a while and then we move to PED equals to 0.2. Okay, now let's look at PED equals to 0.2. Again, we are using the same way. So it must be like 0.2 divided by 1. So therefore, it shows that 1% change in price will lead to 0.2% change in quantity demanded. Okay, and again, if I am to put a sign on it, 1% fall in price will lead to 0.2% rise in quantity demanded. So in this case, I can draw a conclusion where consumers are not very responsive to changes in price. Is that okay? I hope I'm not going too fast, yeah? Okay, now, moving on, guys. If consumers are not very responsive, we say this is considered like inelastic demand. Or we can write it in a way, demand is price inelastic, which means demand is price insensitive. Okay, likewise, this one, we can say it is elastic demand, or demand is price elastic. Okay, and moving on to understand magnitude one more, further, we use diagram. Let's look at this diagram. For elastic demand, the diagram will be flatter. Why? Because the y-axis shows price, x-axis is quantity. You see, when your price changes by this much, your quantity changes by this much. So this is changes in price, this is changes in Q. So in short, when demand is price elastic, percentage change in QD will be greater than percentage change in price. Likewise, if it is inelastic demand, by using a diagram, the demand curve will be much steeper. Okay, so you see, a greater change in price will lead to only very minor change in quantity. So therefore, we can say the percentage change in QD is less than percentage change in price. All right. Okay. From this simple example, we can differentiate elastic and inelastic demand. For PED and PES, we will break down the magnitude of PED or PES into 5 levels. So therefore, okay, we have the first one. We call it perfectly inelastic demand. From here, you can see perfectly inelastic, meaning that totally not responsive, which means consumers are totally like not responding to changes in prices. Therefore, the diagram will be, okay, regardless your changes in price, consumer will demand the same amount. So you see, regardless the changes in price, quantity stays the same. So therefore, the percentage change in Q is 0. So based on the formula, percentage change in QD divided by percentage change in price, the top part is 0 because no matter how, your percentage change wouldn't, like in quantity wouldn't change. And regardless what is P, then your PED value will always be equals to 0. Okay, so that's the first one. Secondly, we have inelastic demand. Just now we already like discussed this part, which means consumers are not responsive to changes in price. Not responsive, but then they still respond. So this is what we show just now, quite like steep demand curve. And just now we already mentioned where percentage change in price is greater than percentage change in quantity demanded, and therefore the PED value will lie between 0 to 1. Okay? And moving on, guys, we also have perfectly elastic demand, whereby consumers are very sensitive, like it's just like absolutely sensitive to changes in price. Once the price change, then the demand gone. Okay, so this is super extreme sensitive. Okay guys, this is just my explanation. Okay, so in this case guys, you see the demand curve will turn to be a horizontal line. It shows that consumers are only willing to buy at this price, okay? And they are willing to buy any amount at this price. So your changes in Q. And therefore, based on the formula, if you use the calculator, percentage change in price is 0, right? So if you use the calculator, anything divided by 0, you will get math error. And therefore, the PED value for perfectly elastic demand will be infinity. Okay, moving on. Next, we have elastic demand, which is what we learned just now, which means consumers are highly responsive to changes in price. Okay, and just now we also showed this diagram. The diagram is much flatter, okay, and indicating whereby changes in price is smaller than changes in QD, because your price changed by a little bit, the QD will change by a lot. And therefore, the PED value will lie between 1 and infinity. I mean, any defined value. Okay, so these are the 4 like main category. We have perfectly inelastic demand, and we come to inelastic demand, and then we have perfectly elastic demand to elastic demand. And lastly, we have something called unitary elasticity. Unitary elasticity is a situation when the percentage change in price is equivalent to percentage change in QD, and therefore, based on the formula, the PED value will be equal to 1. And now let's look at the diagram. Whenever you see this kind of demand curve, okay, hyperbola shape, to me it is hyperbola, so the PED will always be 1. And based on PED equals to 1, yeah, you all need to be very careful. Under the situation where PED equals to 1, they come with one important piece of information: regardless changes in price, okay, total revenue is always constant. Okay, now we have one new term here, total revenue. So let's learn what is meant by total revenue. Yeah, total revenue refers to the amount of money received from selling certain amount of goods and services. Therefore, total revenue comes with a formula. TR equals to price multiplied by quantity sold. Therefore, TR can be calculated with this method. Okay, let's say your price is 5, and then consumer will be buying 20. Then every unit you get 5. Every unit you get 5. So your total revenue will be this shaded area. So this is your total revenue. And by calculation, total revenue equals to 5 times 20, which is 100. Okay, so that is total revenue. Therefore, if you come back to this unitary elasticity, they have one like concept like this, whereby when you have changes in price, okay, this area, which means this total revenue, will be similar to this area. Okay, for those who are doing math, I believe that you know like what is the reason behind, but then for those who are not doing math, it doesn't really matter, but just make sure that you understand and you capture this important point. As long as the question mentioned unitary elasticity, you must recall these important features. For unitary elasticity, regardless the changes in price, total revenue is always constant. That's how it works. And later on, while we are looking into a few multiple choice, and I'll show you some examples for this kind of questions, okay?
That's all for today's video. If you're interested in more genuine sharing by other geniuses, please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to turn on the notification bell, ding dong. Also, if you're struggling with one or two past year questions and the mark scheme just doesn't seem to help, Genie has got you covered. Feel free to let us know what question it is by filling in the Google form linked in the description below. GenieUs Hub will get genius teachers to fulfill your request for the solution. Genie will see you next time. Bye-bye.